Please confirm. Quick. Thank you. Return. 3, 2, 1, go. Come on. Yeah. Oh, baby.
And there you go. Actual official footage, underground footage of a real bad actor creating malware. Not really. But we'll discuss a lot of that kind of stuff coming up here on OT Exposed Raw. What's up, everybody? It's Friday. Thank God. Welcome back to another episode of OT Exposed Raw, where we got shenanigans this time. We always have shenanigans, but this time we've got some real shenanigans because, well, we got some old school shenanigans, and we got backstories, and we've got stuff to talk about at the government. Surprise, surprise. So let's go ahead and bring in our co-host, our Dutch oven with the most, Pascal Ackerman.
Woo, woo, woo.
What's up?
What's up? I was just, when that movie Swordfish came out, I was like, this is such an over-the-top scene. Look at him with his 6-7 monitors. And I'm looking around in my office right now, and I'm not far off. I got like 4 or 5 monitors on the wall. I got
about the same thing here too. You said swordfish. You sound like stronger than 10 guys with swords, like from Aladdin. But anyway, I think that's just
thanks for that, I guess.
So, dude, I'm excited about today's show. I mean, I'm excited about all of our shows, but this is today's special guest is a really close friend of mine that go way back, and we've got a lot in common with the things going on in business. So, a little bit different show today. We're gonna we're gonna give some forgiveness on shameless plugs because of it's kind of the theme of today's show, but we'll get into that. So let's go ahead and introduce our special guest. So our special guest today, literally, and the last time that I saw him in person, we were in Montreal drinking Louis the 13th. No kidding. That's literally the last time I saw him. So let's bring on Ron Fabela.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. And that was, COVID time. That was what, maybe 10, 20 years ago at this point? I forget. Jeez.
Yeah. It feels like that, doesn't it?
Like, I think it was at least 4 years ago, maybe three years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were gracious enough. It was the first and last time I've had Louis.
Hey, I didn't pay for that. If you're watching, wife.
But Pascal, no, you're right. I got 2. I got this. I'm not doing the like. What was he doing? Like he was really gyrating into that.
We probably should.
The worm.
So
I feel like I've been sitting on my ass since COVID started. So we should actually do the same thing as he's doing. A little dance in there.
A little
yeah, I'm not going to do that because mine will look like the truffle shuffle.
At least wait till the guy finishes his drink before you.
Let me suck it.
I know. I should have waited till you had that in there. But hey, since the last time we were in person, we were drinking Louis 13th. Yeah. So we've got a little tribute. Did you have yours filled up today?
You know what? I'm gonna get that scotch that I've been working on for 5 years. And
there you go. Absolutely. It's not Louis the 13th, but we do have to give a shout out. So we're doing this Beer Isaac style because I mean, this is what we do. You know what? I take that back. I've talked to you at some of the beer ice acts at S4.
We were at
S4 in Montreal.
Hopefully not the last S4, but
no, it's like we said.
Yeah.
It is back on. S4 22 should be back in person in January.
Tickets go on. So let me put on my Dale hat. Tickets go on sale September 1st. We do this in phases.
Go on sale.
That's right. Get in first. I'm looking forward to it. I think, it's one of those things like I go to DEF CON like every 3 or 5 years because I go and then I hate it. And I'm like, why did I ever come to this thing again? And then I get a few years out and I'm like, oh, I really miss DEF CON. And I'm kind of really missing S4. It's, yeah. Let's look forward to it.
So I've got my bourbon. Salute.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my tea with my swear words on it. And of course I have, speaking of beer Isaac, ThreatGen sponsors the beer bash. And so these are the cups. Remember these cups?
Oh yeah. Shoot. All right. So shameless plug. And I don't think Dale has released this, but we will also be sponsoring some sort of beverage bash.
Yeah. So you and I are both. So yeah. So
we'll this year. Sweet.
Yeah. So
we gotta figure something out.
SynSaber, your new company, which we'll get into. You are sponsoring the beer bash. We are sponsoring. So 4 beer bash sponsors. It's you, SynSaber, Force Scout, and I believe
isn't it Eric? Isn't Adolis doing it too?
I forget who the fourth one is. But anyway, so
Eric.
by the way, we'll let you. We need you. We have an extended intro today because it's all like it's all like this bursting for social interaction here.
Life person.
But hey, check this out. So I wore this shirt special for you today because on your LinkedIn profile.
Oh my gosh, that solidified. Jory, co-founder, and I. Maybe I can't say this out loud. We were at Energy Sec. And let's just say we effed off for the day and went to Disneyland. It was a lot of fun.
I recognize that's where it's at.
We had a great time.
That's why you had a great time.
Yeah.
All right. So look, let's get the intro down. So, Pascal and I have known you for a long time, but some of the audience may not know who you are. So why don't you give us an intro real quick? And before you do, let me just say that I said this before, but we are suspending shameless plug alerts and for you and for and sales pitch alerts because the whole one of the discussions today is about investments and that's a big deal, which we'll get into here in a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah.
We are the nerd alert in there though, so just
we do have the nerd alert. Is this like shill alert? Like we'll hit the button like
we don't know. We'll just randomly hit that button.
So Ron Fabela, I got into industrial because InfoSec in defense really sucked. And so this was years back, maybe 12, 15 years ago, and fell in love with industrial. And so I was an old pen tester. And no matter what you hear, and I think I gave a talk at S4 years and years ago, but everyone says, well, you can't do live testing. Well, that's what I grew up with. Live testing in natural gas, oil rigs, power plants. The code brown factor was really high, and that's where I learned some of the real challenges in industrial, not just from like a consultant vendor policy stance, but just what do operators care about, what's their day-to-day look like, what do security teams, what challenges do they have when they're trying to interact with the operations. So, consultant, I worked at a company in the threat detection space. I was the third hire. And so now coming out of that, it was, wow, a lot of money. There's a lot of focus. There's a lot of government push to actually secure our critical infrastructure. And I wouldn't be doing this. And Jory and I wouldn't have created SynSaber if we didn't think we could do it better. And so that's where we are. It's we're just at the beginning of our journey, and it's going to be exciting.
So you're a new startup, and that's and that's what we have in commmen. You're a new startup, and you are now funded. You got your seed round, and I am gonna throw this one out there. And so of course, ThreatGen's been around for a while, but we are still considered a startup, and we have now entered our seed round, and we're seeking seed round funding as well. So I had to throw that out there. Yeah, shameless. By the way, hold on, one thing before that, which is also why I'm sporting the purple today.
It's very nice.
We're supporting
I got the team jersey on, which I'll take the team jersey off the more I drink and the more salty I get. So, yeah. No, but and ThreatGen, I want to say in Montreal, you were showing me like your back end, like like pieces and widgets,
whoa,
and I was like seeing under the covers Clint's back end, and it was impressive to say the least. It really was,
and it's only gotten bigger.
Hey, I got a quick question. You said you did pen testing on live systems, and
Yeah.
I've done that in my past as well. But I was responsible for fixing my own shit as well. So, and I think that's how you learn, right? It is possible. It's not advisable, especially not if it's not your own stuff and you're not intensely familiar with it. But yeah, that's the way you learn, man. You do your pen test, you go out and you knock something over and you try to fix it.
Well, and you know this better than probably most. I said pen test. I was immediately lying. You don't actually pen test in these environments. That's what they paid. That was what was on the statement of work. But then as you get down, it's so watered down. You're maybe running Nessus on a secondary, tertiary device. Now, I used to call it vulnerability assessment with exploitation verification, which is a mouthful for you've paid for a pen test, but you're not allowing us to do anything. But yeah, it's great story. Since we're already on a tangent, I'm in TVA land, right? Chattanooga. And we're in, actually, I had sushi with Mr. Steven today. So he says hi, Mr. Hill.
Well, hey.
Yeah, I know. It's only one or two books that I have. Yeah, he signed it, and I can't show you because this is probably a children, like a family show. But
no, it's not.
I can't show you what he put in there, but it was pretty vulgar. No, but we're hooked up, laptop into one of the hydro dams here, doing our NERC SIP, audit, pre-audit stuff. And these guys, we're doing the 3-part communication because you don't want to knock anything over. And you say, all right, I'm going to run this Nmap scan on this device, this IP. And then the operator goes, yes, you can do that. And you go, okay, I'm hitting the button. And sure as shit, I hit the button. I hear one of the turbines spin down, hear one of the units spin down. And I'm like pulling the cable out. I'm like, what happened? And they're just sitting there cracking up because I forget how many units they had. It was maybe 6 or 8. But on the hour, every hour, they would spin down one of the units. Just as a ops test, right? Because it's a hydro dam. They open up the gate, they close the gate, and they're just cracking up because I'm literally like so paranoid. I'm like, I didn't do it. And they're just they're laughing their ass off. But yeah, it's like you said, when you have that much risk of either, hey, I got to fix this or I want to take something down, all of a sudden you start caring about operations. You start really wanting to understand, what does this system do? And all of a sudden you give a shit. And that was the best context I could ever get, was just sitting there, laptop in, hey, what am I going to, mess up if this goes bad? But yeah, it was fun.
So normally we do this at the end of the show, but I want to do it because this is kind of the theme of the show. And I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing at SynSaber. And this is not a shameless plug, like I said, purpose of the show, because you guys are doing something a little bit different than what all of the other, what we would call threat monitoring, ICS threat monitoring technology companies are. And a lot of people, our friend Dale would say, okay, that market's already kind of sailed and it's already kind of solidified and all the fish have already eaten each other. And so, but then now here you come with kind of a different proposal. Tell us, because it's interesting. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing over there.
It's, we're trying to be friendly. We're trying to fit and fill a challenge that's still out there, even with everyone who's out there trying to sell asset identification, threat detection, whatever. And the thing is telemetry at scale, right? The substations are still unmonitored. Every part of the plant floor, you go into big conglomerates, they don't have monitoring at every plant. They do the crown jewels, right? Crown jewels analysis is just another word for you can't afford the entire solution, so we're going to scope it for you.
Not the same thing as showing your back end.
Or under the covers with an impressive back end.
Comparable, but different.
So the idea is what if you started from scratch, industrial built, for the purpose of just collecting telemetry, whether that's security, OT, whether that's threat detection, whether that's for the purposes of asset identification, basic IOC matching, and just kind of tell everyone, hey, nobody needs another SIM in the market. Nobody needs another single pane of glass. And with that approach, I mean, obviously we got funded, so it, the market spoke, at least initially. But even talking with people, you talk to a CISO at a large manufacturing plant, they go, we don't need another single pane of glass. We bought Splunk, we got CyberX via Microsoft now, we got Tenable, we got like, oh my God, can you just get some of that data into the stuff we're already using? And so they're excited, and we're excited. As kind of the lead of product, I'm excited because now I can focus down on actual just flexible, scalable collection. And so it's fun because, technically everyone's our friend. We can go feed the current generation of threat detection systems. I mean, it's, Elastic on the back end anyway. So what does it matter? Just I didn't say that. Let me start again. But these are the engines that are driving like the security operations. And I'm not here to say, well, Splunk is better than this or that. Let me just feed you the fuel to get that engine running. And
you look
if
at
you have
it the way
gaps,
you want to, right?
yeah, they're spending a lot of money with a lot of consulting hours, a lot of licensing, a lot of process and training. Let's just get them what they need in the places that they need it. And yeah, I mean, it makes it clear for us, everyone's our friend. We help them
So
succeed.
you're not a space invader.
I don't know. We do need to talk about SPACs though. That IronNet thing went today, and I haven't looked at the ticker yet, but I think they're already down. Good Lord.
So yeah, I mean that's a good segue into one of the reasons why this is the theme of the show is because they just who was it?
They SPACed.
One quick question though. So do you use something proprietary to collect that data, or are you using like a Zeek or a Bro in the background? How do you get the data?
Come at me, bro.
Bro.
There's only a few different ways to get data, right? You're listening on a span port, tap. I'm doing some interesting things without a span. There's other things that haven't been touched, like wireless, some other things, so we're not going to tell all the details. But yeah, you're collecting network traffic, you're doing the parsing analytics, right? You're going to send that up. Log listening, forwarding. There's a lot of logs being generated in these kind of hard to reach places. You just can't
out of the back end.
Get them out of the back end. There's no pipeline. You need a very large and flexible pipeline to get all that up the stack. This is PG-13.
It's PG-13 because we're not dropping F-bombs, so I'd say PG-13.
But to your question,
we have one F-bomb allowance per show.
We're early, and the key to success is identifying those things you can pull off the shelf and tweak and use, and then trying to provide value like, hey, protocol dissection. A lot of it's context mapping, right?
Yeah.
We can dissect packets all day, but to know that this byte equals a stop command for Schneider.
Exactly. That's the key.
That's what people care about.
In the very beginning of the ICS threat monitoring market, right? It was the race to be able to dissect all the different packets, even proprietaries and all that of different protocols, right? ICS protocols. And now that's kind of done. So now it's a context game.
And it's more things that'll get me in trouble. It's package and delivery. These folks, they need systems that they're able to operate, they're able to maintain. They don't need the rock star Twitter divas, right, on call to operate and maintain. They have to be able to get value out of it. Sorry.
I've never been there anyway.
Sorry, not sorry.
It hurts as a former consultant, right? Because that's where you make your bread and butter. You come in as the rock star. Hey, I know all. I'm gonna tie the thing
swordfish.
together.
You come in like, okay, sit down. I got this.
You do the.
Oh, speaking of which, I was going to mention this. Y'all stopped my flow earlier in the beginning, and I threw that particular swordfish video, and I wanted to put the video at the beginning of it. But because that video blows.
No.
That scene is the reason I got into cybersecurity. But tell you what, I am disappointed.
Yeah, I know. I thought that happened every job, and it only happens like every 2 jobs for me now.
People must look back. Like imagine Halle Berry, right? Looking back and going, man, like what happened? What was I thinking?
Well, what gets me? If you really look closely at the scenes where Hugh Jackman is typing, he's just mashing the keys, and it's like he's not even hitting anything specific.
It's Hacker Typer, right?
Yeah.
It's is that site still up? hackertyper.net or whatever it was. You just bang on it.
I haven't seen it in a while. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we'll get more into what let's look at this because so this was what we were talking about. This is why it's appropriate to talk about you and SynSaber and as a new investment or a new startup that's funded because cybersecurity acquisitions and IPOs and investments have been, bullish. To use a stock market term, been pretty bullish. In the beginning of this year, and so that's huge. That's promising, right? And I'm not just saying for those of us that make a living in cybersecurity, that's
right.
promising. It's good for the company.
What is good for the company?
Yeah. So ask yourself, is what you're doing good for the company? And of course, you also have to then say
Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day.
Right. So
we do have Aloha Friday. I have a little shirt with turtles on it. It's very nice.
That works.
Gotta think of the turtles. No, it's nice, especially in ICS. You guys are old hats. We used to spend most of our time trying to convince people this was a problem. Like that was all the initial consulting, right? Hey, this is a problem. You should probably do something. That was what, 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah. And people are finally starting to catch on, right? And it's not just because of regulation. It's not because, and quite frankly, it's because things are starting to happen in a bad way, right? You have all this ransomware and we have all the things that are starting to finally affect OT. And I'm not saying finally as in, yes, finally, but we knew it was going to happen, right? And
it's finally, more than just
we were saying it all along. I remember I actually got hired as a consultant just to explain to the board of directors or the upper management that there was a problem. They actually paid hourly wages for me to come in and try to convince their upper management that they should invest in cybersecurity. They never did. And I think they got popped now anyway. But yeah, those days were just like, we don't really need it. We make widgets. Nobody wants these widgets.
Nobody cares. It hasn't happened yet. If it was easy, guys, this was like the weird catch-22 of ICS security. It was like, you're telling me everything's vulnerable, everything's unauthenticated, everything's open, and it's connected to the internet. It's so easy. Why hasn't anyone done it yet? And you'd go, oh crap! He's out of line, but he's got a point. It's
yeah. It's like Joe Weiss, poor Joe. He makes a lot of noise, but he's not. Sometimes he's a little way out there with his theories, but he's not wrong all the time, right? He's doing a lot of good for the industry, but in a lot of ways, I kind of feel like he's crying wolf so much to where people are like, okay, I've heard it too much. Therefore, it produces this complacency. So Joe's done. For all the good that he's done, I think he's also caused a little bit of complacency.
He's starting to claw back. Unfortunately, I was going to get on this whole thing about you got to be a fan of other people's work, right? Not necessarily of other people. We have too many talking heads and divas in the crowd, right? But to appreciate someone's work though, the work you guys are doing, the work that Joe has done. And you go, man, I wish he wasn't so salty and aggressive about it now, because I appreciate his work. I no longer really appreciate him. And it's just but we're getting into that a lot. You got to be a fan. And IronNet closed the merger today. They're listed on the stock market. I'm a fan. Great.
Yep,
why the hell not? And I think we're going to see that, Dale had Zomi CEO on, right? Talking about their raise. Seems like everyone's raising $100 million. They're just cutting those checks like nothing.
I haven't seen mine yet.
Hook a brother up.
Guy.
Got to keep going, man. I don't know. The market, if anything, is excited about ICS cyber, and here we were, 10 years ago at S4 or whatever, trying to get 30 other people excited about security, right?
Yep. That's what that's where it happens.
They
right there.
Were excited about that.
Beer ISAC at all the conferences. But so hey, let's we were talking about kind of like motivators, right? And one of the things, so government's yet again trying to get involved, and so what I wanted to kind of talk about, there we go. Kind of talk about the Biden administration, what he's been doing. At first he had his 100-day plan, and then they put out their phase 1 and phase 2 guidelines, which are recommendations, and then now he's got the cyber initiative that apparently, what is it, Amazon and Google, Microsoft, they're going to invest billions in improving cybersecurity. So what was interesting about this. Yeah, the giggle. There weren't a lot of it was a lot of talk about, I guess, backbone technologies, but there wasn't a lot of ICS OT representation in this thing. And we were talking backstage earlier, and you had a lot to kind of say about, and I want to hear your thoughts kind of on this 100-day plan and the initiative and what government's role plays in all this.
It's so tough because your first inkling is to be salty about it, right? Because I brought up, I was looking at the executive orders, especially around information sharing. It is the policy of the United States government to increase volume, timeliness, and they go on and on about information sharing. And this was from Obama's, EO from 2013, and here we are now. Folks that were represented at the meeting are now talking about, we need a better, instead of information sharing, they're calling it collaboration, private-public collaboration. And part of me wants to be salty about that. It's all right, guys, it's new decade. Let's figure out something different. It's about momentum, though, right? I mean, having the Colonial Pipeline CEO up in front of some subcommittee answering for the incident, I think finally got some CEOs and CISOs got their attention. Like crap. When the next one hits and power in the Southwest goes out because of ransomware, because we can't bill our customers, we need to pay attention to this. So it's kind of hey, this is good momentum. Try not to be salty about the whole 100 days. There's only so much you can get in 100 days. And I would say there was probably a very minimal actual implementation. But hey, success. We got everyone thinking. Got everyone putting in budget.
Yeah,
items.
and I think that was the big thing, right? It's like you're not going to actually do much in 100 days, but it gets everybody moving, gets everybody thinking. My whole thing is this industry has a very short memory, and complacency can set in very fast.
Which is why you have this drive to, and I get the influencers in the space, why they're so desperate for another incident, another malware to reverse engineer, some other piece of content that they can go, yes, see, look, we're still relevant. Because the memory is short term, right? We were talking about Stuxnet, we're talking about, Stuxnet 2, whatever else came out. It's just that was a decade now.
You missed 4 or 5 of
Where's
those.
SysDrunk? We got to reset the timer. But yeah, it's so the only thing I saw that came out of this boondoggle at the White House, and they had some CEOs there. I think they had some remarks from Tom Fanning, CEO at Southern Company, and others.
Yeah, I saw a few, but
not a lot of meat. And the only big thing is they're going to apply the 100-day model to pipelines, which big surprise, right? Colonial. They're
really
we drinking for Colonial too.
Yeah, that's the new Stuxnet.
Colonial.
Oh man,
we probably should have done it for Joe Weiss too. But
we probably should have level 0. Electric utilities and pipelines are totally different industries. I'm sure at a policy level they think oh yeah, this worked for one, let's just do the other. And
I for one, having been in the field for 15 years now, having seen cybersecurity be on the back burner, not even on the back burner, before the back burner, and now to see it in the White House being discussed, I applaud this. I think they're going the right direction. I hope keep going.
Yeah,
except
agreed.
For I have a problem with some of CISA's recommendations on, we slammed them last week about this horseshit of a recommendations guide that they put out that was, obviously it wasn't geared towards infrastructure. I mean, it was not ICS and OT. It was just kind of a broad spectrum. However, if you're talking about critical infrastructure, you have to put ICS and OT into that context. And in doing so, you can't sit there and say regular vulnerability scanning, regular patching, and as often as you can, and that kind of stuff. So I'd like to hear, from some of our viewers, post in the comments. I would like to hear your thoughts on whether you feel that the government's role in the 100-day initiative, the 100-day plan, this Biden cybersecurity initiative, CISA's involvement. What do you think? Is it helping? Is it hurting? Is it useless? Or is it just there? I mean, I would like to hear from some viewers on kind of what you think while we go through this.
Hey, I'd grab the opportunity and take this information and go to my upper management. Say, hey, look, it hasn't just been me renting for the last 10 years. Look, the White House is now trying to make this do as well. So maybe you should start paying attention.
Yeah, no, agreed. And that's I mean, when I started, it was the old ARRA smart grid grants, right? Those came out that pushed a lot of smart meters, put a lot of modernization and distribution networks, and because they had that little comma and it needs to have cybersecurity, I mean, I paid my mortgage doing that, right? I mean, that's how we all made a living. So these things can be used as drivers for actual change. It's just getting caught up in it. I've said the same thing about NERC-CIP for years, right? It's hey, are some of the controls like just asinine? Like, I was at a utility and they were getting fined because you do the visitor log, and instead of writing out the escort's name every single time, they were putting tick marks.
But yeah, well, that's
right?
auto interpretation, right? Because generally the requirements of these standards are very vague, and I've heard from the standards committees that they do that on purpose because they don't want to pigeonhole, be prescriptive and about the requirements and pigeonhole operators into having to do specific things. But then that leaves openings for kind of overzealous auditors to do, I guess, overarching or I don't know what the word for it is anyway, but just very strict interpretation, like you just alluded to.
You get CERC, you get WEC. But what I told everyone was when we come in and do, even as a consultant, it was, hey, what is the 3 topics you've been trying to move for the past 3, 5, 10 years that I can include in my report because they're paying money for a third party to come in, or we're having an audit, whatever. How can we use this to actually get real security implemented? And I do think the 100-day initiatives, like, these are putting a spotlight on the issue, and hopefully these are like things that other teams can wield, right? So you got a SOC team at a utility or a manufacturing plant. They've been trying to get some sort of monitoring or segmentation or something in. Now they got a new stick. Hey, unless you want the government in here trying to tell us what to do, we better do this now. Oh, I've been telling you for the past 10 years we need to do it.
Shame.
Right? Pretty much. I mean, it sucks that we're there, but you can't really use quantitative analysis like, well, if the plant shut down and it costs, $10,000 a second, and they go, okay, we'll worry about that when the plant shuts down. It's like, oh shit. Like, that's not a good way to look at it.
So the 100-day plan and phase 1 and phase 2 of the recommendations and this initiative, they focus a lot on, number one, as far as I've read so far, I don't know if it's changed now, but it's basically a lot of it's recommendations, it's not requirements, and they focus a lot on some on threat monitoring, reporting of incidents, and things like that. And I think some of the most recent changes do start to focus on assessments and training, which I'm happy to see.
That's right. And, you're getting some big players out there. I mean, hopefully you guys can get some of that. Microsoft 20 billion. And I think Google threw in 10 billion. Like, I wonder, they're sitting in the boardroom. They go, hey, here's the number you can offer when you go to the White House. Like, I wonder how these things work. But,
well, they open up the wallet and be like, what? I got some spare change here. Let me throw it on the table. I think that's what they do.
But like one of these, code.org announced it will teach cybersecurity to over 3 million students across 35,000 classrooms. Like, wow, that's scale,
Yeah. So what's the premise of this? Are these companies that are investing money, the Microsoft and Amazon, or whoever all it was, Google, all these companies that are investing in this initiative, so they're not actually doing anything themselves to say, we're investing money in our own infrastructure to secure it. They're donating money to the government for programs for this type of thing, for education. Is that what it said?
It kind of, because you get like bullet points in a 2-sentence context. Yeah. Like, I don't know if this was existing budget that they were going to invest, and now they earmark and say this was like an in-kind, allocation of budget for this government initiative. The one thing that stood out though, and this is, certain people in the industry get all up in arms about this, but Microsoft's 20 billion was to accelerate federal, state, and local governments with upgrading protection, partnerships, yada, yada. I mean, and we know, especially on the electric utility side, most of the entities out there are your local muni co-op with, no budget for security. And, these ideas that the big IOUs would take care of their, their neighborhood brethren is kind of, I'm not sure if that's going to work out. But instead of the government funding these, now we're going to have a private entity fund some acceleration. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Is it just a push for more Microsoft products? Like, hey, you get them on the hook. Hey, we'll do Azure and O365 for you free for the first year, and then here's the bill after this initiative's done. Like, I don't know what the play is.
And I think that's the key, right? The key is that there's not a lot of details, and we're going to be waiting to see what the details of this initiative and what this funding is going to go towards. I'm always suspicious of these sort of things. I think that the government tends to be a little bit, their initiatives lack teeth. And or they're a little clueless, like we said, last week with their horse shit of a release, and then of course I'm sorry, look, I said this before, horse shit. I said this before. I've been a fan of ICS cert back when it was ICS cert. I'm a fan of CISA, but I'm gonna call it like it is. And if you put out crap, I'm gonna call it crap. And that's not me downing you and saying that you're crap, your people are crap. That's me saying the product that you just recently put out last week is crap, and you need to do better, because you can all do better.
It's tough because those
people, right? I mean, we know they can do better.
I was going to say,
We've seen it.
And some of it, like, I don't know if it's overly political, but like, what was it, years ago, they put out the alert about SSH brute force, and you're like, yeah, no shit. Like, we've been using Hydra for years. Like, I don't
decades.
Yeah, I think it's just it's sad, especially being in this industry as long as you want to use those things, right? And say, look, the government's identifying this for a reason. And then when they put in their recommendations, make sure you patch, make sure it's on a VPN, and segment your network. And you're going, all right, guys, like, you've kind of just undercut everyone. Like, you've lost your credibility. Like, it's so yeah, you never want to see that happen. It's man, it's just I hope these initiatives, whether they move forward, like, Microsoft's 20 billion. If we get 20 billion worth of effort out of that, I don't think that's going to happen. As long as it moves the needle a little bit. As long as we're moving in the right direction.
Keep moving in the right direction. That's the only thing you can hope for. The best thing you can hope for.
Yeah.
So, one of the questions that I ask a lot of the guests, and we talk about this a lot, but I want to hear your perspective. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of question about, okay, there's these recommendations coming out, and some of the CISA recommendations didn't meet expectations, and there's no teeth or on the regulations or whatever. And some people like that, some people don't, right? Some people want more enforcement, some people don't. And I think we've had some really great comments on the show before. It's like, well, instead of imposing financial penalties for companies that have already just been hit and they're already down, increase incentives, these sorts of things, right? And so, I'm a big fan of that. Either way, so from your perspective, then, what are the top recommendations? So going along with all this, like, if I'm an operator and I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? I don't know anything. I'm new. I don't even know what I have. Like, what are your top recommendations? What do I need to do first, and in what order, kind of thing?
Yeah, that's where, you get the consultant answer. It depends on the maturity of the organization and the industry that they're in. All of these. And you see it in some of these initiatives from the government. If they're going to bring a bullet list of recommendations, then there has to be tactical action to it, right? And whether that means, Microsoft's giving away free licenses for a little bit.
Actionable intelligence.
Oh, God, don't get me started on that. No, but it's like, you don't want it to be everything's a bring me a rock exercise, right? Oh, we're going to share data with the government. Well, okay, we shared some data. Like, remember Einstein? You remember, Coyote? You remember all this stuff? And it just seems like it's just more rocks. Bring us more rocks. And I don't think with any of these collaboration and, information sharing things, I don't think the community gets much back from it, other than to be able to stand up in front of Congress when they get popped and say, no, we participated in that government program, so it's not our fault, it's your fault. Which actually is pretty powerful.
Some people from the industry get to stand in front of Congress and represent, and then put their sales pitch into the Congress.
And it works, and God bless them, because it's why we have an industry we have now. But it's weird how you see, like, if you look at cybersecurity, how they progressed, right? They started implementing technology that worked for the problem, right? So like, why did the industry go from AV to EDR, or like these different moves, right? Why do we go from IDS to IPS to whatever? I think industrial has the opportunity to leapfrog that. Like, we don't need to go through 2 decades of, just AV didn't work, so now let's add this and this
and you
and that.
see a lot of that, right? You see a lot of so people have said this industry is a decade or two behind enterprise, and in the same spirit, they're also following in a lot of the same mistakes. And it's like, you don't have to do that. Learn from enterprise, even though it's not apples to apples, because obviously there are the industrial caveats, but still, we don't have to replay the blueprint from enterprise.
And I think where we're lagging now, and a little bit of this is sales pitchy, so be careful, is that whatever regulations
I'm not going to hit you with
don't hit it yet, but whatever recommendations, regulation, whatever comes, it is still too difficult for the asset owner or the CISO or whoever to make good on those requirements, right? So if the government wants them to information share, it's still too difficult and too one way to actually information share, right? They either aren't incentivized to do it, they're not getting anything back from it. That's my hypothesis, is that most of these people would share if they actually got something back from the government, or back from InfraGard, or back from whatever. These things are all one-way street. So the only benefit they get is the umbrella liability of, well, we participated in that, so you can't say that we weren't trying. But so until that is more two-way, until the government comes with, this is what we're providing, not just what we're telling you to do, another administration or two will get another EO that says we need to do more collaboration, public-private. It's like, oh, okay. It's not wrong. So yeah, the recommendation is, whatever the asset owners can do to implement either technology or process or automation, something to make these information grabs or these requirements easier on their life, they need to do. It's the same reason why they modernized SCADA and DCS. It's the same reason why they started connecting to business intelligence. It's making things more automated, more easy. It's why we have all the security risk there. Until they start to get tools like, we may have to drink, but like SBOM is a hot thing now, right?
And we're not drinking on SBOM right now. We're going to give it a few months.
We'll give it, but I mean, what was the first control in the SANS top 20? Inventory of hardware and software. And we've been talking about that for a few decades now. What's been lacking is technology to make it easy for people. Because, I mean, Pascal, you probably know this, and Clint, I know you have, to do a walk down of a power plant to see what hardware they have and where it is and writing down serial numbers. I've lived that pain. Nobody wants to do that, right?
It's scary. And you try to open up some of these electrical cabinets, you'd be like, okay, I put my screwdriver in here. I try to open it on this side, and I can peek in. Yep, there's a PLC.
I used to tell my new guys, keep your hands in your pockets. You don't want to become ground. Like, just everyone chill. These cabinets have not been opened since the plant was provisioned, right?
Yeah.
Until the, because I don't think they're going to get more people. I don't think they're going to get more money. I don't think the government's going to start dishing out dollars on this. So they have to be made more efficient with what they have. And so, as a technical vendor, that's kind of self-serving, right? But, if you need to share government data with the government, then you have to be able to collect data easily in a way that doesn't impact your day-to-day. So I think with any one of these things, you could just say, well, it's an efficiency factor at this point.
So you're going to be at S4, as long as Delta variant doesn't stop everything, so you're going to be at S422 in late January. Tell us what we can see at your booth. What are we going to expect? What's exciting that we're going to see from you at S4?
No booth.
Just the Beer Bash sponsorship, right?
Just the Beer Bash, so we got to think of a cool giveaway. Maybe we can all go in on something. I think the big thing for us, it's kind of a coming out party. We're still in stealth, but not stealth. We're really focused on building product, and maybe different than the current generation of detection products is we're going to take some time getting that feedback from the asset owner, right? From the actual customer. We're coming into this with, back to my previous rant, we want to make sure this actually works for you. regardless of what I think or what Jory thinks or what the team thinks, this has to work for you. And if that's basic, if that's complex, we're going to meet you where the requirement is. So I think coming out is more just an awareness. It's putting on a different hat, right? I'm not there to bring beer into Beyond Back Channel and make fun. I'm there to bring beer Beyond Back Channel and talk about how maybe we can disrupt the current market and actually provide a solution that people can use and is useful for them. Other than that, I'm debating whether or not to drive kegs down, because that's how Beer ISAC started. So I don't know if I want to go through that pain again. But
I remember the very first one. I was right next door in the hotel room to you and Steven. And y'all had the kegs in there, and y'all storing the kegs in there, and it was all night party.
It was awkward because we pull up to the Surf Comer, and I had this crappy red HHR at the time. We had 8 kegs in the back, like the little pony, the 5-gallon, and anyone who's been, and we were war driving the entire way down, so we have like the magnetic. We had one of these, right? One of the big offensive alphas magneted on the top. Nice. GPS, and we get there, and like idiots, I go, "Oh shit, Steven, they don't allow you to self-park here, right? How are we going to get 8 kegs up to the room, like inconspicuously?" And I just said,
"Kegs in your hotel room."
Yeah, and we had that black barrel with the taps on it and everything, and so we pull up, we open up, I hand the guy the 20, I say, "Hey, I just need these in the room." He looks in, I go, "I'll help you put them on the cart." So here we are in like the bellhop cart, pushing 8 kegs through the lobby. Everyone be cool, right? That was fun. And Patrick was pouring very heavy pours of bourbon. And that's how we took over that outside bar. And we've been the most, now Patrick was poking last week, but we've been the most
Patrick's
effective
going to be on the
ISAC
show, by the way, in 2
ever
weeks.
since. Very good. You'll have to give him shit about calling the ISAC ineffective. Again, out of line, but he's correct. But yeah, it's a fun time. It's nice to get everyone back together. I mean, it's again, look how far our little industry has gone, right? This is kind of our big Super Bowl event. It's our own. Dale's good job of hyping it and kind of building it into something that was more than just a conference room at the Covens, right?
Yeah.
So
remember that. Yeah.
We're all growing up. It's kind of fun.
So you'll be a sponsor at Beer ISAC. ThreatGen will be a sponsor at Beer ISAC. And by the way, ThreatGen, we have something special planned. And I'm just going to do a shameless plug for ThreatGen here. We have our red versus blue booth, and I'll be announcing in a week or two, I guess, whenever the S422 app goes live in I think in October. We have some video of some things that we're going to be showing. So obviously we'll be showing like demos of our red versus blue product and some demos of some things we have going on. However, for just plain straight up gratuitous fun, we are building a first-person shooter arcade specially branded for S422, and we're also going to have it at Beer ISAC, but we're going to have an arcade that's just a first-person shooter that you're running through an industrial plant through levels. And I'll go ahead and spill the beans. The theme is plant versus machine.
Oh, man.
And so basically the premise is your control systems have come to life like Skynet meets Transformers Allspark. And the operators are battling their process controls to save their plant.
You know what? We need to get Reed in there because he's been wanting to shotgun a GE D20 for like years now. So if he can do that, if we can have a controller, like let's get some of the big ones like the S7 1200s and the right. If we can put bullets into those, that would be very
it's going to be cool. Like you're going to be fighting like POCs and stuff that have turned into robots, and you can even shoot up the plant and cause fires and stuff like that. It's going to be cool.
It's what we've all dreamed of. That's you. You're making dreams come true. I love it. You guys are
I need a banner
great.
for that. Making dreams come.
Don't let your dreams be dreams, right?
Yeah. So that's we let the initial notification, or what do you want to call it, the spoiler we release it here, but we'll have some video footage of that later on this year. And
that'd be great.
so yeah, and it's a good idea though. Maybe I should solicit this on the Beer ISAC Slack, and I should solicit people for ideas and maybe some artwork and stuff. It's like, hey, let's make this a community project. We'll actually, because we're gonna have custom artwork on it and everything, to where it's actually gonna have like it'll be branded S422 in the marquee, and it have like a plane on the graphics on the side. I'll have like an operator, and there's like industrial stuff, PLC, and maybe we
have the intro. Are you a bad enough dude to protect the IC like the old Street Fighter or Double Dragon or something?
So maybe we need to have a Beer ISAC tribute logo on there as well. So on the graphics of this thing, it'll be S422, and it'll call I think it's called Plant versus Machines, and then it's gonna we should have like the Beer ISAC logo on there, and we're building it. You can take the top off and separate the stand-up platform from the actual unit. So you can make it tabletop, bar top is what it is. So we can actually have it out at Beer ISAC. So when we do the Beer ISAC stuff, we'll actually have it. We'll play it at Beer ISAC.
That's so cool.
There's
awesome.
there's leaderboards and everything.
You need to get for a donation to what's Dale's water charity. For donations of a certain size, you can put Patrick Miller as a Sprite or Reed with his hat.
That's a good idea.
How can we monetize this?
Yeah. So hey, donations to help with this thing will go towards Dill's water campaign, because that's what we did when I designed the shirts for Beer ISAC. Donations went to the water thing. Since we're here, we do have a question. So those huge funds need to be, or maybe it's a comment, those huge funds need to be given to system integrators to work on new enforcing standards for each industry rather than giving to the government. And I think so. I don't think they're going to the government. I think the funds are actually going towards private industry. I don't know.
We need details, right?
Yeah, you get into like the budgetary minutia, right? Like they're not actually cutting checks for people. Is this a grant process? Is this a?
That's what I think. It's going to be a grant process.
So then you get into these grant process, and just by way of how those are run, you already set the bar too high for either some vendors, some asset owners, or some integrators, right? The process involved, because when I worked at Lockheed Martin, I got to see government RFP processes, and it's hundreds of people, months of work just to submit, and and there is plenty of it is interesting to talk about the integrator, because we did have a large integrator, or at least part of them. They got bought out by Deloitte, our old friends at AE Solutions, at least AE Solutions Cyber. So they divested their cyber business. Yeah,
so that's like Mark Ayala, John Cusmano, and a few others.
Well,
right?
Mark's, he's over at 1898 now, which is...
Oh, he left? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, because when I was at Lockheed, then it became Leidos, and then everyone in DoD divested their commercial IT, because it was just not in their bailiwick, right? We build missiles and airplanes and stuff. And I think Burns and Mac kind of did that. And now they have an alpha shoot. It seems like AE Solutions was doing the same thing. Like, well, let's go back to our roots of system integration and get rid of these cyber guys. And I think the integrators is interesting, because I think the thing I hear most about, whether it's brownfield, greenfield, is there's this problem of convincing, hey, for $1 a unit, times 10,000 PLCs, you can get the secure version, and they go, nah, I'm good. Like, I'll take the $10,000. And so if there was some way as part of the design process, the integration process, whatever, to incentivize that uplift, because they're going to buy that equipment anyway. Like, it's not like we're trying to wedge in even someone like me or you or anyone else to wedge in like a technology they don't think they use. Let's just like buy technology, or buy compute modules, or buy hardened switches, or something to future-proof these things. Because when someone like me comes in, you go, hey guys, do you have managed switches? And they go, no. We go, well, spend your first $500,000 on that, and we'll talk to you in a few years. If we can get that into the design and system integration process, that's probably the actual, and I don't know how we do that, right? Like, is that at the OEM level? Like, hey, Emerson or whoever, we're going to essentially supplement or give you grant money to deploy only secure versions of these controllers. Like, that's just such a messy process, right?
Isn't this something that 62443 tries to accomplish?
Hmm.
You know, if you adhere to their standards, then you already include that in your best practices.
So we have an answer there, and
It's not how the IT's not how the funding. Yeah. So when you say an LOI, letter of intent, and what's FOA? Shoot, I'm gonna have to Google it.
yeah, well, I'm gonna have to Google FOA.
He'll probably
FOA?
get to it before we do.
He's typing right now.
Funding opportunity announcement. Yeah, this is like your .gov, right, where you see all the grants and the
that's a grant.
RFPs
Yeah,
and everything.
that's a grant process.
And it's I mentioned ARRA from years back. I mean, that's how a lot of these businesses were started. Like that was the heyday of Industrial Defender, right? It was just that line item
was there.
I mentioned it. I wanted to, that's how they shoehorned in a lot of that before people really understood or cared about cyber. It was like, well, we're going to get half of this project paid for by the government. Yeah, throw that cyber's in there. Okay.
So, all right, we're about the last 5 minutes here. Is there anything else that you want to cover? Is there anything else that this is you time. We kind of mixed you time throughout this.
The whole show is his time.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I am loving what you guys are doing with the red versus blue. It's like if I go back to my military roots, right? Red versus blue, or what they used to call OPFOR, right? Opposing forces. That is the no shit how you get down to real, and it's not simulation, it's exercise. And that's what we need to get to, is actual exercise of these issues. And it's not just to make operators or consultants or defenders better, it's to provide them that context. It's the same reason why you do tabletop exercises. It's not to see if someone will pick up the phone because they're on the call list. It's exercising them on, hey, if I ask you this question, what's the answer? How do you get the answer? And there's just so many things. There's so many analogies and corollaries to where if you don't exercise it, you're never going to know. And right now, the industry is in this pattern of we're not going to exercise it until some HMI gets ransomwared.
Yep. Well, and here's the thing.
It's just such a weird thing. So I think we need more stuff like what you guys are doing. It's accessibility and scalability, right?
Well, and let me just break in real quick. I'm just going to say this real quick since you brought it up. Since you brought it up, later this year we are releasing a fully functional, pretty much self-contained, fully automated red versus blue tabletop exercise platform. It's going to make tabletop exercises more accessible and easier to perform. No more cards and injects and arguments and all of that. It's a it's an active opponent working against your tabletop exercise, as opposed to just a facilitator instructor going, okay, this happens. Okay, well, how did that happen? I just did this and secured that. So the red versus blue TTX, or tabletop exercise platform, is going to help automate all that. It should take the minutia out of tabletop exercises and should absolutely get rid of that whole oh, we're only going to do it when we need to. This is going to make it easy to do once a quarter, or once a year, twice a year, or whatever.
I promised Twitter a bad analogy. So here's
that
the bad
was
analogy.
a sales pitch, by the way. Sorry.
Right? But I did promise a bad analogy. So we're all nerds, right? Hit the nerd alert button. Why is hosting D&D campaigns so difficult? It's time consuming. It puts so much work on the dungeon master, right?
But whenever things like table Roll20 and all these tools that automated that, and it became fun and easy. Right?
Why is World of Warcraft such a hit? Why are these online things? Because they've automated and they've made accessible all of that pain, all of that manual pain. And if you guys can do that, that's how we get exercises more frequent. That's how we get them to think more critically. So access and scalability is the name of the game, both for you and me. And if you guys can do that, that's how we actually move the needle on the people side, because technology only gets you so far. Policy barely gets us anywhere. But if you can get the people involved in thinking critically, that's the key. So that's going to be exciting to see, because it is really taken. Instead of playing D&D and it gets canceled because no one shows up, let's fire up something that's curated and
And that's
Let's go through it.
what red versus blue is. And so we had a question from Grayson who says there needs to be more TTX with purple teaming. That's what
Right.
red versus blue. Red versus blue incorporates both the blue team and the red team. So it is a true purple team tabletop exercise. And then he asked if it was mapped to the MITRE attack framework. Yes, it is. So sorry for the sales pitches, but that's kind of where the conversation went. And I'm just so excited about it. So yeah, but yeah.
Me too, man. Me too. And I love purple teaming all the way.
And
I'm on
here
the
it is a
purple
great
team.
point. And non-technical leadership doesn't understand D&D and
Well, it's curated. Every time I'd walk through a plant and you ask the typical consultant thing, hey, what's your bad day looks like? And he goes, hey, let me go show you. And you walk through, and that's the dungeon master. He can't do that 10 times a day.
yeah.
Right? She can't do that once a month. They don't have time. We got to be able to automate this in some form.
Yeah, and so that's like I said, and so I'll do it one more time. I'm going to do it, but yes, that's what red versus blue tabletop platform does. It automates everything, makes it red versus blue, purple team. It's curated. You just click a scenario, say go, and it just does it so that the educators and the facilitators can do what they're supposed to do, educate and facilitate, and you don't have to worry about the minutia of the tabletop and all that. And it just becomes easy and accessible. So anyway,
love it. Sign me up. Where's your PayPal?
There's a button on the bottom of the screen.
Is there a button?
yeah. Yeah. So
Awesome.
if anybody is interested, like I said, there is the link for the ThreatGen red versus blue stuff, and we do facilitated table. The platform does tabletops now, but it's going full automated platform mode by the end of the year, just in time for Christmas.
Sorry, under the Christmas tree.
It's a stocking
Love it.
stuffer.
Oh, is it?
Stocking
Whoa.
stuffer. Give away red versus blue, like Minecraft cards, but red versus blue cards.
My kids are gonna be like, these are not V-Bucks. What the hell is this? This is not.
This is not
awesome.
sufficient.
Yep. All right, guys, we're at the bottom of the hour, so that's all the time that we have for this week. So thanks, Ron Fabela from SynSaber, a new startup, funded startup, and thanks for sharing your time and knowledge with us. And everybody, thanks for joining us. Thanks to the audience for posting comments and questions. And we will see everybody back here next week. Thanks, everybody.